Whoops, I messed up there. All right, let's do the intro right now.
Saturday morning, hey, sip my coffee, kick back, relax. College football awaits me. Spinning wheels of fate on the screen, locked in those bets, gonna chase that green. Talking sports with the bottle and the crew. Connor Max wisdom cuts right through. Mike's got the picks that make you sway. Winning bets, cashing tickets, count the pain. Cup of coffee, parlay on the rise. Dreams of fortune, no disguise. Living for those 2-unit bangs. Victory sings with the glory it brings.
Yeah, sorry about the start, man. I am off my game today. That's what you get for hanging with the shark way too long on stream. But we are here on Saturday morning, maybe morning where you are. It's moderately early afternoon here. It is Guns Picks, and this is what the start of the show is. We're going to break down the top 25 board with special guests along the way. And I appreciate everybody that is joining this now, like watching it from Pub Sports and coming over to here. I appreciate your support. Hit the like button. Hit the subscribe button. If you haven't joined the GunzPicks channel, do so now because we have some special guests. We have some very educated people that are going to break down the college football slate from top 25 down today. It is going to be a beautiful Saturday, and I got a new mic, so I sound probably a lot cleaner than I usually do. And that is what we're going to do here. But always, as we start the show, we put the we grind the beans, we get the coffee going, we put it in the coffee maker, and you hear that little bit of a drip, 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 and you got yourself a cup of coffee parlay. Let's go. Yes, sir. And when we say cup of coffee parlay, if you're not familiar, I'm talking about putting the amount of money on this parlay as a cup of coffee. So your Starbucks, your Tim Hortons, I know our guest knows about Tim Hortons, and Dunkin' Donuts, whatever it is going to be. It's like it's $5, maybe 10. I was like, that's all we're doing on this cup of coffee parlay here. Let's bring it up here. Boom. There it is. We got Minnesota money line, ODU money line, Indiana money line, UGA money line, and New Mexico, who I love today, money line. I brought it up on multiple shows. Iowa money line, SMU money line, who should dominate Pittsburgh today. And then, of course, I put a dog in there. And I think the best dog on the board right now is Nevada money line, and that's a +2,645 parlay. You can get that out of FanDuel. That is the parlay today. I think we've missed this parlay by one pick like 3 weeks in a row. So like I'm on point. I'm just missing it by one. I think this is the time to get on the parlay. And if you want to get the parlay, and if you just missed it, there it is. One more time. Boom. And that is what we're doing. And if you go into my chat or you go into my comments on this video after the show and say, Guns, I'm tailing. If this play hits, I will give you $50. And I'll get I'll just give one person $50, by the way. It's like I don't want if there's 10 messages, 1 out of 10 will get the giveaway of $50. So that's why it pays to play with the GUNZ. And I got my guest in the waiting room. I'm gonna bring him up right now. You've seen him on every single social media platform. You see him on Pub Sports, but he's doing his own thing right now. Hitting the Books is one of the podcasts that I watch a lot. And this guy, him and Connor Mack, who's going to be coming on too, they exude what college football is, and they break down the slate very early for you and give you the ideas of how to bet games. It is Ian. How you doing, man? On this beautiful
Guns, it's good to be with you as always. And like I said, it's always enjoyable to be doing shows. Doesn't matter with who, doesn't matter where. I love talking really every sport, including, of course, college football.
Yeah, I go from Kelly in Vegas to Ian Cameron. So no, I'm joking. It's a good time. I always have you on because
that is a very real and true downgrade. Trust me.
Yeah, no. It's not even a downgrade because the education that you provide like it should be known to the people that I joked backstage with you
It's a
about
downgrade in the eye aesthetic to the eye department. Yeah.
it. 2 words, he says, Nittany Lions, Archimedes in the building. But like, what I said was like, I was like, I need you on the show because I don't know who the left tackle for New Mexico is. And I was like, you could probably name it. We're going to break down the top 25 slate here today. And of course, Ian will be with us at least for the beginning of the show. But I want to talk about some of the games that are on the board. Let's talk about the biggest game on the board, right? Let's talk about Ohio State and Penn State. Big noon kickoff, which kind of, and I joke with guys that I work with a lot of people on my day job that are Penn State alums. And I always say, like, you should call the AD when you have big games and just have a whiteout on big games, no matter what. It's like, I know you do it for night games, but when the sun's shining on white shirts, to me, is probably a detriment to the away team. But I digress. They are having a stripe out. If you know what a stripe out is, so it's a white shirt with the Penn State stripe that's on the helmet. So they're doing that today. It's Ohio State. It's Penn State. What are your thoughts on this one, Ian?
I hate to be dull here with one of the biggest games of the day, but to me, this is a very tough game. It's it's an interesting game to watch. I'll obviously be keeping a close eye on it, but I think it's a very difficult game to handicap and to bet because I can't trust Penn State when James Franklin in a big game until I see it. That's where I stand with this team right now. And I know they're at home. I think this is as vulnerable as I've seen Ohio State when Penn State plays them in quite some time. The reason for that is the offensive line injuries. They are significant, including arguably the best offensive lineman for this Buckeyes team. And you saw the effect of it even the Nebraska game where, the run game with Judkins and with Henderson, it really didn't get going. And it was hard to open up those run lanes. And that's product of the offensive line having injuries. And Penn State, the one thing they've got is a very, very good defense, especially up front. I wonder if they're going to be able to move Penn State off the football and win that battle along the line of scrimmage with these injuries. That's a big concern for me. And it's a pathway for Penn State to not only cover, but win this game. And I think if you look at it, matchup fundamentals as well with the Penn State offense versus the Ohio State defense, it looks like Aller's giving it a go and he's going to play here in this game coming off the injury. We'll see how effective he was all week. There was talk maybe Pribula, the backup quarterback, was going to end up playing here for Penn State. But I think Penn State does have matchup advantage. I think they've got a great opportunity to win this game. But at the end of the day, Guns, it's James Franklin's inability to beat Ohio State or Michigan since he's been here at Penn State. The results don't lie. Ohio State's won 7 straight over Penn State. 6 of those have been by more than this point spread to cover the numbers. So I'm off the game, though. There's just too many concerns I have with the Ohio State offensive line. Otherwise, I'd be on them probably. But to pass me, I would lean under the total. I don't see this as a game where teams are marching up and down the field. Defenses, I think, are the superior unit, especially today, considering the O-line injuries for Ohio State. So I think their defense is going to have to pull them along in this game. And we don't know how healthy Aller is either. So, and Will Howard, I like him. But again, in a big moment like this on the road, I thought he played all right against Oregon, but at the same time made critical mistakes at the wrong time. We'll see how he fares in this one, but lean under the total with the total for this game.
Yeah, I was on Top Tier doing the college football playbook on Tuesday, and I gave out Ohio State at -2.5 in the first half, and I'm kind of hating that bet because of what you're just saying right there. The offensive line issues are
game day just flashed it 1-12. James Franklin against top 5 competition. I mean, how do you back that?
Yeah, how do like no, he is a guy that I always say, like, that guy when he plays like top and you got to take that stat with a little bit of a grain of salt. It's basically all Ohio State, Michigan, Ohio State, Michigan, Ohio State, Michigan. It's like those are the teams that he can't beat. And for him to come into this game, I'm not looking at the full game on this one. I think the best time to take them is first half with Ohio State because Penn State is a slow start. And I said this with some of these teams in these high ranked matchups, like understand who's the first half team and who's the second half team. I said it with Georgia and I said it with Bama. I was like Bama wants to come out and punch you in the mouth early. UGA is the second half team. I think we have a little bit of yin and yang here too, because Ohio State is punching you in the mouth first half And then Penn State is more of like, okay, we're gonna like see what's going on. Second half, we're gonna make adjustments, and we're gonna come out here. I wouldn't take this game as a full game type of cap. I would probably look at the first half for Ohio State because I think they're gonna come out here swinging. This is a team that needs like if you talk about back against the wall mentality, like who needs this win more than anybody in this game? Who needs it more? Ohio State needs it because they lost to Oregon. All right.
Yes.
So
I would agree with
Penn
that.
State's undefeated coming into this game, and it's dangerous territory with Penn State. Now, do they think this game's important? Absolutely, they know it's important. This is something that they want to put in their resume. However, who needs the game more? Rat against it's like backing a rat against the wall and watch a rat try to get out of that situation. That is Ohio State in this one. I'm not touching this game on a full game. I think the best time to take them is Ohio State. If they're going to compete in this game and win this game, they're going to do it in the first half. So I think it's the way to go is to take Ohio State, whatever the number is, first half, and take them on the money line. I think it was like -1.5 when I saw it this morning. That is probably the way I would go with that game. And if you do see Ohio State up big in the first half, you could kind of thread the needle and take Penn State in the second half. And I've been doing that with a lot of these big games this week, or I'm sorry, this year. That is the way I would probably take that one. But it's only if Ohio State covers the first half, then go and thread the needle and take the second half. All right, let's go to the next game on the board here. Not a big game. And I was talking to Shark about this last night. There are going to be times that we fade the Miami Hurricanes. That is going to happen. We're not there yet. There's two situations that I have in my mind knowing their schedule. This isn't one of them. So Duke's going on the road to go face Miami today at Hard Rock Stadium. Miami is 3-score favorite, -21 that I'm seeing here on the board. The total is like 54.5, 55s. Do you have any thoughts in this game, Ian?
Yeah, this one it's very interesting here. Which game is it again? Sorry,
It's Duke and Miami.
Oh, Duke, Miami. I do have thoughts on this. I like Duke. I think it's too many points.
I agree. Mm-hmm.
I think, and I was able to get 21.5. 21s are still out there in a couple spots. I'm even seeing 20.5 starting to appear with the Blue Devils here in this game. Manny Diaz against his old team. I don't know how much the Duke players know and care about that, but I'm sure they're aware their current head coach was fired by this Miami team. And the way they've played this year, Duke, and I say that because the way they played is pretty hard. They've played hard. They've fought their guts out in a lot of games. Remember, the Northwestern game was a really tough one for them. They battled there. What an effort from them against SMU. Hell, there were times they outplayed SMU last week. Very unfortunate to lose that game by a point. You worry sometimes about an emotional hangover after a loss like that, but I don't think it's going to happen here. Not when you're playing Miami, especially when your coach used to coach there as well. Malik Murphy, the Texas transfer, is really improving week by week. That was his best passing game of the year last week against the Mustangs. That's a good sign. You suddenly look at Miami, and outside of last week, this against Florida State, who have had zero offense all year, so throw that one out the window. Other than that, look what they're doing on defense suddenly. They give up, 35 to Virginia Tech, 38 to Cal, 45 to Louisville. Suddenly this Miami defense, it's coming leaky a little bit. And, I don't like a leaky defense laying 21 points. Now, we know the problem for Duke here is going to be stopping Cam Ward and the great offense, of course. They are awesome. And Duke's defense, against, the best offenses they've played, they've struggled. Even SMU last week moved the ball up and down. So that is the concern. It's also why I think the over actually could be a decent look here. 54 in that range. I think the over is a good bet too. But I don't think Duke gets just a few too many points. Miami's just 1-3 now against the spread their last 4 games. And when you get this deep into the season with all these goals and getting, into November now, if you're Miami, still with this gaudy record to begin the year, the noose tightens a little bit, and the pressure mounts a little bit. And we're starting to see that. The Cal game, they barely escaped. The Virginia Tech game, they barely escaped. This is a team feeling the pressure a little bit of an undefeated team, trying to keep it going week in and week out. So I think that precludes them from being able to pull even the Florida State game last week. They didn't cover that game. And it was a game where they had a hard time truly gaining that separation needed to win in this kind of price range. And I'll tell you what, Duke's a whole hell of a lot better than Florida State right now. So Duke for me, definitely.
Yeah, I agree with you on that one. And I always I like to mirror or compare this team, this Miami Hurricanes team. It reminds me of the turnover chain team. Remember that team?
Yep.
They went in undefeated. They got to the end of the season and they pooped in their pants. It was like they faced a Pittsburgh team on the road and they ended up losing that game. There was a time that we're going to have to fade this team. I don't think this is the spot. And you alluded to the total. And I think that's probably the best way to play this one is probably take the over on this one, because the fact that you just mentioned, Miami is a high powered, high octane offense. You know, they're going to score points. However, everybody looks at the defense on this one. And I think this defense is starting to leak big time. And you said like Virginia Tech, Cal, like they do give up a lot of points. And I think that's probably the way I play it. And I'm surprised how good this Duke team under Diaz has played so far this season. Like they're playing above their pay grade right now. And like going into this game, they're going to obviously give up the scores. However, the offense is going to score as well. They have a great quarterback. They have a decent offense. They have good weapons. They're going to be able to score in this team. And I think the best way to play this one is to take the over. I'm not officially on this myself, but I think like I said, there's two games on the board that that I am going to be eyeing the spread on. It's Georgia Tech, which they have to play in their next game, I believe, on the road. That is going to be if it's a double-digit dog for Georgia Tech, we're going to take Georgia Tech. I'm just going to tell you right now. And then they play at the end of the season. If they do go in undefeated, they're going to have to face Syracuse on the road in their last game of the season. I mean, there is traps or mouse traps for them coming up, but I don't think this is one of them. I wouldn't mess with the spread. I like the total. As Ian alluded to, over is a way to play this one. But let's go to the next game that's going to be on the board here. We have Ole Miss going on the road to play at Arkansas. It seems like a bear trap is set for them in this spot here. Arkansas, by the way, got over their win total at 4.5. I told you to take them. I said on the preview shows, Arkansas is a bold team. Why is it 4.5? Just take the over on the 4.5, and they've already got there for me. And this team is playing a lot better than I expected. And now they're going into a spot where it's a really good position for Arkansas. What are your thoughts on this one? Ole Miss versus Arkansas, Ian?
Well, 3 matchups: Pittman versus Lane, Lane Train versus Sam Pittman. Arkansas 3-0 against the spread. They won the one game in Fayetteville, and then in Ole Miss they lost by 1 and they lost by 7. So where's the evidence Ole Miss has won by more than a touchdown against this team? I don't see it. And look, Ole Miss has trouble against physical defensive fronts. We see this all the time now. Why did Kentucky beat them? Physical defensive front. Why did they struggle to move the football in the game as well against even Oklahoma last week? It was a grind for them to get that offense going. But the teams that can play physical up front, and Arkansas can do that a little bit. Those are the teams that can give them some trouble, and the offense kind of doesn't go up and down the field when all of a sudden there's a team that doesn't play finesse on the defensive line all of a sudden. Arkansas, meanwhile, they absolutely waxed Mississippi State last week, 58-25. They've covered 4 of the last 5 games. Now, their last home game is the one that disappointed me because I took them against LSU, and they got romped in that game, 34-10. Nussmeier and the Tigers offense had a really good day against Arkansas. They couldn't get Talon Green and their own offense going. I think this is a close game, though. Series history dictates that. I mean, there's not been a win by more than a touchdown for Ole Miss against Arkansas since 2019. 4 meetings in a row. It's a 2-2 split, and the Ole Miss victories were by a touchdown or less. And let's not forget, Arkansas, even with that bad LSU loss at home, and they didn't play well that day, they were good enough to cover against A&M. They were good enough to beat Tennessee. It's a 2-touchdown underdog at home. I think it's a pretty close game. I think the Hogs are the play.
I agree with you on that one. I think the Hogs are the play on this one. And I was like double checking the lines on this one. And I got in early, and I'm kind of kicking myself not getting off getting the key number over 7. I think there was opportunities to get it even surpass that. But you have You mentioned a lot of the key points on this one. Ole Miss is great early in the season. It's like but you look at the numbers or the teams that they played early in the season. We're talking about Furman, Middle Tennessee State, Wake Forest, and Georgia Southern. It's like that. Those are the worst teams, in my opinion, in FBS. Then you go when they got into conference play, it was a little bit different. They struggled, right? They went from like running the ball very efficiently to going to 3.4 yards per carry. Then you have an Arkansas team that is average at best, is defending the pass, holding the but they've done very well as of late, better defensively. So you've seen this defense like kind of progress. And then you mentioned it. Arkansas owns a history versus Ole Miss. 6-4 straight up, 9-1 ATS versus in Arkansas. And they're a dog in this situation, which is like what Sam Pittman wants to do. It is a perfect scenario for Arkansas. They're playing at home. They're a dog. And then you got to look at Ole Miss, 6-11-3 ATS versus conference opponents since 2022, and 1-3 ATS this season already. So like Mississippi right now is not backable as far as like if they're a favorite and they're on a road, they're going against an Arkansas team that is just going to be ready to play this team. It's a big game for them, and I think Mississippi has Georgia on deck. Is that correct? I think they have a big game next week against Georgia. So
yes, they do. Yep.
Yeah. So a potential look ahead here. And you have a team that just doesn't play well in conference. And we say this is like, I know Halloween is past. And what I say about like college football teams is like the mask starts to come off after October 31st. And this is one of those type of situations that we may be seeing the mask come off here for Mississippi. So the only way to play this is Arkansas and the points. I'm not saying to say they're going to win outright. I'm just going to say that they are going to cover the spread. And I have my next guest that is coming up here, and I want to make sure I introduce him properly. He's over at Sports Money. He's over there making money. He's over there just streaming like 24 hours, it seems like 24/7. This is my man. Mike is back in the building. Pimp Slap Pod. What's going on, man?
There he is.
What up, fellas? Happy to see you this Saturday morning. Thank you for the invite. My guy, Babano. Holy smokes. I didn't know we were allowed
Good
to be
to
on
see
the
you,
same
Mike.
Reunited, and it
good.
feels so good. And we got some guys back in the building. And of course, make sure you like and subscribe to the GunzPicks channel if you're watching this right now. But we're going to the next game on the board. I'm gonna skip a few of these.
Hey,
games
real quick before I know I heard you guys backstage talking Arkansas, Mississippi, and our guy Ramon Scott has done a great job finding some of these tools that aggregate kind of identified sharp bettors across Las Vegas. And the sharp betting report here shows Arkansas has heavy movement. It's 13 sharp betting identified on the Arkansas side, only 5 on the Mississippi side. So it does appear you're right. The only way to play this thing is Arkansas, get them points, or move on to the other side.
Yeah, I'm seeing Mississippi at 8. So you're getting over the key number of 7. I wish I didn't buy it so early on. I didn't have a lot of juice. I took Arkansas plus 6.5 early in the week. And I know it's below the key number of 7, but like I don't look at key numbers in college football because I always say college football lines are loose slots. It's not like betting the NFL. We don't want to get past key numbers. It's okay. I think Arkansas is going to compete in this game, but like this is a game. I'm going to skip Air Force and Army because I don't give any cares about that game.
Well, there is some big news. Bryson Daly's out at quarterback for Army, so that's pretty significant.
That's huge.
Awesome, obviously. Okay, but they still, it's kind of like plug and play with Army. They put the next guy in, and they still run your triple option. And Air Force is pretty bad. I still don't know. They're still probably going to win that football game, but just be a little careful laying 18 there.
Yeah, I think it was at over 21 at one point.
Yeah,
and
that's a response to the Daly injury.
And then the Daly injury dropped it to actually 3.5 points, I think. But this is a game that I have investment in. And it's Minnesota versus Illinois, Memorial Stadium, Champaign, Illinois. 12 p.m. is the kick. This is going to be an electric game in the Big Ten. I have some thoughts on this one, but I'll pass it to you, Ian. What are your thoughts? Minnesota and Illinois.
I think we're getting carried away now. I know with Minnesota, a lot of love for Minnesota, and people have been betting them, and they're playing better football. I get that. But now 3-point favorites, 2.5 3-point favorites on the road. I know Illinois got their ass kicked last week at Oregon. That was an ugly game for the Illini, but they've still had a pretty solid season. And if you look at Minnesota, yeah, they're playing better. And Brosmer, the quarterback, is playing better. They really like this kid, getting him out of New Hampshire, and he didn't look the part early, but he's certainly playing a lot better. But Maryland's got a pretty bad defense. Then they beat UCLA, who's not that good. USC defense has collapsed, so I don't want to give them too much credit for beating the Trojans either. Now, they have covered 4 in a row. I give them credit for that, Minnesota. But I think Illinois is in a decent spot here. And I think now I actually still have Illinois in my number -1. I have them as a slight home favorite here. And now they're a home underdog. So I think value-wise, it's with Illinois. And I still prefer Altmaier at QB over Brosmer.
Okay. Ian says Illinois is the play. Mike, do you have thoughts on this one or counter arguments on Minnesota versus Illinois?
I'll tell you, right on. Brosman, I don't know that he's the guy, but the problem I have with Illinois is their run defense is gosh near awful and might be the worst across college football. Even some of these Conference USA schools can stop the run better than what we've seen with Illinois. And
Darius Taylor's a damn good back for Minnesota. So that is true.
Fully agree. And I look at this and I just see that, this number creeping on the over. And at first glance, you might look at it and say, well, it's Big Ten schools. Historically, we see these guys running lower scoring games, but these aren't the Minnesota and Fighting Illinois of yesteryear. How about this? 14-1 to the over. You got Minnesota. When they're off a loss or a small win in the favorite role, they have gone 14-1 to the over. We're seeing the over catching some steam. And not just that, but look, the margin is so significant when it comes to this total. Even though you've missed maybe the early number at 44.5, you're seeing 47s, 46.5 out there at BetMGM. The margin of victory on that over is almost 10 points a game. So I do think we have the opportunity for some scoring here, especially given that run defense is so bad for Illinois. Probably see them separate in this Minnesota side for the second half. But I'm going to take points. I'm going to go contrarian here, I think, to some degree. And maybe your initial look is taking the under, but I like this 46.5, 47s. Give me the over in this spot. Minnesota, Illinois. Let's see some points.
Yeah, I like that look, Mike. I like the Minnesota side, so I'm going to counter argument there, and it has to do with the defensive strength. So what Illinois wants to do is they want to pass the ball. Like their pass play percentage is telling of what this team wants to do. And you mentioned the weak rush defense of Illinois, like especially in conference. 3 out of the last 4 games have given up over 200 rushing yards to their opponents. I think that is going to play into what Minnesota wants to do offensively. And then what Illinois wants to do offensively is pass the ball, but they're going against a Minnesota defense that is ranked 15th in opposing pass yards per play, 10th in opposing yards per game, and they're second in opponent INTs thrown. So this is a ball hawking team. They are going to create turnovers like with Altmaier. So I'm a little bit worried about, at least hesitant with this Illinois team. I think this is Minnesota, and Minnesota in this role has played very well, especially on the road. 2-0 ATS already this year. 4-0 ATS is a favorite. This is like a Minnesota team that I bought at -1.5, and the line shifted to 3.5. I was like, I think it's going in the right direction. This is a Minnesota spot all day long. And I would only take Minnesota personally myself. Ian likes the Illinois side. And of course, I agree with Mike on the over. But, we have Ian that has a hockey show to get to. I want to make sure I give him the proper spot here on the GunzPicks channel. Ian, tell them where they can find you on all social media platforms.
Yeah, it's the reason why I can only stay for 30 minutes because I got to get ready. We got the Ice Guys NHL hockey betting show at noon. On the weekends, including Saturdays. So that's coming up. And of course, check out me and Connor Mack. Mondays hitting the books, 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific, college football every week. And we're going to be starting some college basketball content on that channel as well. So make sure you sign up. We're with Pub Sports Radio a couple times a week. And of course, my Football Frenzy show, Ian Cameron's Football Frenzy, the NFL version with former college and pro quarterback Philip Nelson, my guest, joining me every week for that. So make sure you check that out as well. And then we'll leave you guys with a few plays that I like today. I don't know how the hell UAB's favored. They are horrible. And this is not a ringing endorsement of Tulsa. For me is just, I'll take my chances betting against UAB as a favorite. They've been that bad. Trent Dilfer, a horrible coach. I don't know if going to Jalen Kitna at quarterback, John's son, is suddenly going to make things better for UAB. They can't stop anybody. I think Tulsa can win that game outright. So I like Tulsa there plus the points. I like Memphis UTSA over. I think there's a lot of points in that game in the Alamo Dome. I think UTSA could be a live home dog. They're not a home underdog very often. The reason they are is because they've had a down season. But Memphis is only 1-4 against the spread. Their defense has reverted back to last year and 2 years ago. They can't stop anybody, Memphis. All of it. And look, they gave up points to Charlotte last week. How bad does that look when you see Charlotte get rolled by Tulane the other night? On Thursday night. So I think UTSA could be a live home underdog, and I like the over as well in that game. I like Oregon first half against Michigan. I think it's just too much to ask for the Wolverines right now, and their star cornerback is also missing in this game. How can I not take Vanderbilt as a dog? 5-0 against the spread. I like Vanderbilt there, +8 against Auburn. And one more bet that I like, all of a sudden they're playing some good football. Jay Norvell's Colorado State Rams. They've won a few in a row. They're looking to get bowl eligible. Nevada's kind of regressed after a decent start to the year. I think Colorado State can win in Reno tonight. So there you go, boys. A few best bets for me for Saturday.
I got excited when you talked about Vanderbilt. It's Diego Pavea. It's like when he's a dog going into a situation, you just have to take Vanderbilt. Shark gave it out on the show yesterday. He said take Vanderbilt. It's like you just like I don't care if it's a public dog, whatever. If it is, it isn't. It doesn't matter. Like when Vanderbilt is a dog, just take them. Diego
5-0 ATS. Yep.
Diego must look at the book like he looks at FanDuel and he just looks at the books. He goes, "Oh, I'm a dog this week. Hold my beer." And that motherfucker and that dude just like
and Auburn ain't some of these teams they've played in the underdog role earlier this year. They ain't Virginia Tech. They ain't Alabama. You know,
he beat this Auburn team.
Yeah. Texas,
New Mexico State. Okay. So understand that this guy knows what to do.
No sweat last week if you took them against Texas. No sweat whatsoever.
Yeah. I told you, Diego Pavea is hold my beer. He's like, you think I'm a dog? Hold my beer. Ian, thanks for joining the show, man. Get into hockey. Go check him out on Hitting the Books. And I also have his co-host waiting in the waiting room. Get out of here, Ian. Let's go and bring in my next guest. Of course, he is the co-host on Book It with Sports with Ian. They break down the entire, and I mean the entire college board. And I appreciate the knowledge of having this guy on because he talks about totals, he talks about spreads, and he is a regular here on the Saturday mornings with GunzPicks, including Mike. Get him in here, Connor Mac Picks. What's going on, my friend? How you doing?
Mac, Daddy.
Guns, I love you, but don't ever say book it.
It's hitting the books.
That's pretty fun.
Hitting the books. I screwed up.
Book it. No, I'm just right. I love it. How you guys doing? What's up? Mikey,
so
looking fresh, barely awake
today.
I'm
off. Hell no, dude.
Yeah,
hell no, man. I got up bright and early, boys. I went and gave the early vote. I'm sucking down some cocktails. I'm ready to go this college football Saturday.
I was up very late with the Shark, like just shooting the shit, and I looked at the clock. It was like 3:30 in the morning. I drank way too much bevies, and I am hurting. Like I barely woke up to go and do Dabby's show. Like I woke up like 15 minutes before, and I just rolled out of bed. I'm like, all right, I'm ready to go, and I sounded like shit. But I digress. We still show.
Well, this is right. On Saturdays, you get when I do this, sometimes I only get 3 hours of sleep. I have to be up at 5 in the morning.
Yeah.
Because I'll have to take a nap. Even if I had it here, I'll take a quick nap. And sometimes a mid-afternoon.
I usually put like 4 games on and I'll lay on my couch and I'll fall asleep.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
But let's talk about some of these other games. Actually, this is a pretty good game that we're going to be talking about here on the top 25 slate. We have Oregon versus Michigan, and Oregon is a 14.5 point favorite on the road in the Big House of all places. This Michigan team, from winning the national championship, has fallen from grace, but is 14.5 points worthy for this Oregon team that really has a close win under their belt? They kind of played flat on the road versus Purdue. And of course they won their big game versus Illinois last week. But I'll pass it to you first there, Connor. Do you have any thoughts on Oregon versus Michigan?
Yeah, I mean, I don't want anything in this game. I think this could be right around the number. That's why as we've seen with Oregon, like this is a 3-touchdown. Could this maybe be like a 2-touchdown win because it's at Michigan? You know, Oregon, Babano, which we talked about before on Monday, they've been good all year, early at least. You know, it seems like they scored 3 or 4 touchdowns and they've kind of sat back with the lead. Can they do this on this Michigan defense? That's good, but not great, you know, especially the last few years. And this offense for Michigan is just not very good. I mean, when you can't throw the ball, you constantly have to run it. So Michigan to be in this game, have to keep the ball, long possessions, all that, and then you're going to have to get a turnover or two from Oregon. Can that happen? You know, it's not easy to go play in 100,000 in front of 100,000 people. So we'll see how good this Oregon team. One thing I've been most impressed, and I keep bringing it up every week, is how good the Oregon defense has been. Maybe it's against their competition, Ohio State, you know, scored at whatever it was, 32, 31, where they have in that game. But that's Ohio State. They ended up winning it. Consistently, they've shut down teams because I've always cracked on this Oregon defense. I just never thought it was typed to win national championships. Good, but not great. Can they continue it? But they've been pretty good all year. I have to give my hats off to them so far. So, but I have nothing here. Nothing in this
I
game.
just think it's weird. It's weird to have Michigan as that big of a dog here, especially at home. Mike, do you have any thoughts in this game?
Yeah, so you got all the cash coming. Well, not all the cash, but 76% of the bets and 62% of the cash slamming in on this Oregon spot. It opened at -3.5. Now it's obviously screamed way past that, as we've seen Michigan. You guys nailed it. They're falling flat. The interesting spot to me is looking at the total. 48.5 drops down to 44.5. And you kind of have a pros Joe's scenario. 77% of the bets are on the over, 63% of the cash, you know, sitting there on the under in this spot. I can see the under in the fact that Michigan could potentially fall flat, but the thing is, when Michigan's in the home dog role, it's points. And I got to go back to margin again. And I hate to be Joey Public here with the over, but 11-0-1 is Michigan to the over when they're in that home dog role. And it's the margin that jumps out again. It's almost 11 points a game that these games are sailing over the number. Now you're getting a situation where it's come down 4 points. I got to get it on the over in this game. Now there's a lot of trends here that do support Oregon. I don't know if I can lay the 14.5. C-Mac was talking about it. Road dogs after the opponent covers. Definitely a fade spot out there when it comes to the dog spot, but obviously we're looking at Michigan in the favorite role here. But I got to go to the points. 11-0-1, that beefy margin of almost 11 points a game in that home dog spot. I'll take the over 44.5 here. Maybe we see something miraculous. Too big a number for me to want to lay the 14.5, but I'd potentially consider Michigan in the first half. But I do expect Oregon to flatten them out as the game goes on. But give me the over 44.5. Michigan, Oregon over 44.5.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have an official play on this one, but I think the lean to me is Michigan on this one, just on the sheer fact of like how I know how these offensive run. So when you look at Oregon can pass, they can run, but I think the defense, at least from the rush side for Michigan, is going to be able to handle what is Oregon's going to bring. I think what the detriment of the defense is their secondary and guarding the pass. Dylan Gabriel can throw the ball, and that is kind of what is taking me off of like just betting this game altogether, because like when you see 14.5, there's got to be a reason why Oregon is a heavy favorite. I don't know if it's because the books believe that this is going to be a 3-score type of situation here for Oregon, or is it the fact that the overinflated value of Oregon coming into this game is just egregious, that the public will just, no matter what the line is, they're just going to bet Oregon. I don't even know if that's the case, and I'm staying away from it on that fact. And then the quarterback situation with Michigan is a little bit still dire, of course, losing Tuttle for the year. And now they have to go back to what they did in the early part of the season. And they're going to be very run-oriented. So run-oriented means they're going to kill a lot of clock. It's going to be time of possession type of mentality. They can run the ball on Oregon. I mean, Ohio State was able to do it. I think Michigan can do it as well. So it could be a closer game, maybe one possession type of game, but we'll see. I'm not betting it officially, but I lean towards the Michigan side. I want to call out the chat. Shout out to the chat, like Razor Sharp would say. Of course, Mike Belanda says, sports money pump in the building. He loves it. And of course, Peter Graziak, true gun disciple, says, what's up, guys? I always have to ask about the Ducks. My wife is an alum. Do I back or fade? We talked about it. Maybe focus on the total. Mike likes the total on this one, and of course, I lean towards the Michigan side. And then we go ahead.
Real quick. Well, Mike's just saying is that Michigan's got to get more than 10, because all year Oregon's got basically 35. So you're saying,
Right.
I mean, maybe if you want to just look at Oregon again, their team total or early, like we talked about first half, because they get to 35, it seems like Michigan just needs to get 10, 14, and this could get over. So that's the way I kind of look at it, if you like the over.
Yeah, I might jump on that one too. I like that. The overlook is the way to go. Mike brought up some very key stats on this one, and Connor Mack agrees. And of course, Mike Belena in the building goes, I got South Carolina +3 at home versus the Dogs at A&M. I like that look. I think we're going to talk about that game in a second. Like that is a bad spot here for Texas A&M. But let's talk about the largest as Mike is enjoying a cocktail himself. It's the world's largest cocktail party. It's Florida playing Georgia in Jacksonville, Florida. By the way, this is going to be the last game that is going to be played there in at least like 2 years. I guess they're going to be moving because of renovations done to the stadium. But this is going to be a spot that exists at Everbank Stadium. Florida at 3:30 is the kick. I lean towards the Florida side, but I'll pass it to you, Mike. What are your thoughts, Florida versus Georgia?
I mean, I love this game. Historically, year in and year out, always difficult for me to bet in on this thing because I'm not a Georgia guy, and I see what they can do out there. But at this point, I don't know that I can entirely be involved on the Florida side either. I don't have a decisive look. I've got trends that kind of split the middle on this thing. I can tell you that 59% of the bets and 58% of the cash are pouring in on Georgia, but at 14.5, this is another spot where they should go out there and just handle them. The total's on the creep though, and when I think of Georgia, I guess I still can't get that Alabama game out of my mouth there where they kind of were fighting back and forth. And can Florida compete with like Alabama did? I don't think so. It's just too many points. And I just don't have a definitive read on this one here. I know cash again pouring in on the over in this spot. I might lean to that Florida first half. Again, just taking a big spread, expecting Georgia to pull away as they continue to grind this team down. And you can see a first half number out there. FanDuel's hanging at 9.5. Which is crazy because you see 7.5s and 8s kind of across the board. So FanDuel definitely getting aggressive, thinking that I think in this point they're expecting Georgia to run top to bottom on this team. And I don't know that I entirely buy into that. I just don't have a definitive play. So there's nothing for me on this one, guys. Sorry.
Yeah, Connor Mack, what are your thoughts? Florida versus Georgia.
Yeah, and I mean the last few years, Georgia's been able to take care of them. 20-point win, 24-point wins. One thing, like Michael just put in the chat, I've been impressed. Like, what Florida defense are we going to get? Like this dreadful, awful defense early on that the last 3 or 4 weeks has looked really, really good. I mean, I couldn't believe they shut down UCF because I hadn't seen it all year. Yeah. I mean, it just gave up 28 to Mississippi State and then barely lose to Tennessee, then just kick Tennessee's ass. So, and with the quarterback play, with Mertz gone, now they got this kid in there. I mean, it's a tough spot. But one thing with Georgia, so all year they've been big favorites. They haven't really covered. The 2 biggest games they've covered, Clemson, the smackdown right away. And then last week as their huge dog, 2 weeks ago when they're 5-point dogs, nobody wants them. They can't do anything against Texas, and everyone was loving Texas. Now they're back in this huge spread again, laying 2 touchdowns. I don't know if they're good enough, and I don't know if this Georgia team can put teams away consistently where you'd want to lay points with them. I think it's a wait and see. I mean, could they win by 3 or 4 touchdowns today? Sure. But I don't know what's going on with Florida, playing better football, and I think maybe they could hang around in this one. So, yeah, I had nothing in this game.
Yeah, I think Florida is probably the lean that I have on this one. It's on the sheer fact that you just brought up.
Yeah.
Georgia just doesn't put these teams away. Like when they're a double-digit favorite, they're 1-4 ATS. They just can't they play to the level of their competition, like consistently. And even you can take that win that they had 2 weeks ago versus Texas. They dominated that game. That was a pure Kirby Smart just saying that, like, you think you're that good, hold my beer. And they have a big game on deck. You have to understand they have to play Mississippi on the road next week. They're probably going to be holding their cards, or at least tight to the vest, versus this going into a neutral site game versus Florida, which is a team that they know they can beat. But do they cover by margin? I don't think so in this game, because Florida, like you said, last 4 weeks since they got punched in the mouth versus A&M, they have been very good. I'm very impressed with what they've done and dominated in the games preceding that spot. They've won the yardage battle, I think, out of 4 out of the last 5 games or something like that. So they even with the score tells a story, but the yardage tells a bigger story that this Florida team can probably stay with the Bulldogs here today. I think the only spot to take on this one, because you can get it past a key number at plus 14.5. Two scores is too much here for this Georgia team versus Florida. Florida is a lot better than the spread on this one at Everbank Stadium at 3:30 today. All right, let's go. Let's skip around the board. I want to talk about this one because it was brought up in the chat with South Carolina. So you have a Texas A&M team that's just humming along. A big win, playoff implications on the line versus LSU last week, and they had a flat first half. They came into the second half. They put in Marcel Reed as a quarterback, and they dominated from the get-go in the second half. This is a Texas A&M team that came off of a Notre Dame loss in week 1 and then just continues to hum. Now they're going to go on the road in a sandwich type of situation with a big game on deck, I believe. Actually, no, they don't have a big game on deck. I think they have New Mexico State. But still, I digress. I think coming off that big win might hurt them here. But they're a short favorite on the road facing South Carolina, the Gamecocks, and the Gamecocks can play very well and to level their competition. But I'll start with you, Mike. Do you have any thoughts on Texas A&M and South Carolina?
I don't know that I've found the right side of a Texas A&M game all year, but I'll tell you this. I'm not fading them Gamecocks today here. Big opportunity to jump in with this South Carolina side of things here. I'm trying to pull this game up. I was looking at the numbers. Reverse line movement opens at 4, dropping down to 3. What are we looking at here? Obviously, you mentioned the South Carolina spot. Texas A&M 7-1 on the year. Somehow, again, I can't find the right opportunity to kind of bite into this team. But I'll tell you this. I don't want to fade an undefeated trend when I've got over 2 touchdowns of margin in my pocket, and that is exactly what we have with this South Carolina team. Now, again, South Carolina is one of those spots, hit or miss, right? I mean, you get 21.5 against a Bama squad. You barely lose to those guys out there, but you're getting 10.5 against Mississippi, and you get chunked. They go out there and they handle Oklahoma, who I do think is kind of on fraud patrol here as they've moved into the SEC this year. Maybe they'll figure it out at some point, but in the meantime, yeah, this Texas A&M team kicking ass, taking names, winning game after game after game after game. But South Carolina, if they lost the previous meeting as a dog and they're changing sites, so they're either home or away or what have the case may be here, they were on the road. They are changing sites. They're coming back home. They're 8-0 against the spread, and they're smoking the number by 16 points. Now, 16 points when you're looking at a 3 spot, does that mean they're a live dog? I think it does here. Watch South Carolina. Put Texas A&M on upset alert here. I think it's a very good opportunity taking the South Carolina team. Take the points. Think about that money line. To me, it's points versus the money line because on the money line side, you're only catching 125, 130. Take that field goal. I think this is a tight game. I think it's definitely going to come down to that 1 or 2 point situation, and I do think South Carolina is a live dog.
Yeah, I agree with you on that one. I think South Carolina is the play, but I'll pass it to you, Connor. What are your thoughts? Texas A&M versus South Carolina.
Yeah, I'm on South Carolina here. Texas A&M has not been a team for a lot of people where you've bet consistently the last few years and they've been cashing. And after that first half, I was thinking, oh boy, here we go again. They have problems with their offensive line. I mean, LSU was all up in there. I mean, they had like 10 sacks. Weeks guy had 7 himself. They had to make that quarterback change. It needed to be done with Reed. It was a huge spark that got him going, and they scored 31 points. And also they got huge turnovers, especially in that second half. I mean, LSU stopped running the ball too, just drop back and pass. This will be different on the road, I think, for Reed. I think it'll be a hostile place. I think A&M might be a little bit better, but I think South Carolina's off the bye. They're going to get right after him, and this is where I want to see Reed make these plays in a big spot like this, where I love the home team here with South Carolina. And they disappointed me. They've covered for me a couple of times. I had them against Ole Miss, where they were just dead flat. And I'm throwing up my hands like, what kind of team do we got here? But after last week, this is a perfect fade spot for A&M. I'm on South Carolina as well.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a consensus on this one. South Carolina is a play on this one. South Carolina, 3 losses this season, but 2 of those were 3 points or less. And we're talking about Bama and LSU, where they had control of the game, but they poo-pooed in their pants late. This is a South Carolina team that just doesn't know how to win, but I trust Beamer in this situation. Also, A&M, does own the history. But South Carolina has covered the last 2 meetings. Last year, they lost 30-17, where South Carolina was a 16.5-point road dog. Now you're seeing them as a short dog at home. Line functionality included in this one. Then South Carolina is 3-1 ATS as a dog this year alone. And this is the shortest dog line that they've seen all season. Of course, A&M is 1-4-1 ATS on the road in the last 6 road games. South Carolina 9-4 ATS versus conference opponents. This is just like a big type of Gamecock spot here. The only way to take this one is South Carolina, take the points, and also sprinky dink a little Salt Bay on the money line for the Gamecocks.
Sellers don't to him. If he's just how he's been the last few games, like 250, just don't turn the ball over. They will win because they have Sanders. He's a great running back. They're going to hand it off a ton, but Sellers, do your job. South Carolina.
Here we go. And Mike Belena says, like, to me, A&M's offense did not look good. I mean, they make the quarterback change mid-game, and it just looked like LSU could not adjust. South Carolina will be ready for Reed. I agree with that one. And if you actually look at the statistics, it's not like that making the quarterback change was what made that team do well in the second half. I think the defense kind of stepped up as well. And then Marcel Reed he's not a passing quarterback. He's one-dimensional. He's a running guy. So it's almost like looking at Michigan when they have Alex Orji in there at quarterback. It's got a similar type of scenario there. And South Carolina, you're correct, is ready. Listen, they took Bama to the wire. They took LSU to the wire. Actually, they dominated LSU until halfway through the fourth quarter, where they shit themselves. And they lost the game. I was like, South Carolina is going to be ready for this game. I trust the Gamecocks in that situation. But as we break down the board, make sure you like, subscribe to the GunzPicks channel, and make sure you check these guys out on all their social media platforms. You have Mike that has sports money that is absolutely cooking. Like, I don't think that channel ever stops putting out content. I was like, and they're putting out sharp content consistently. Go check them out. And of course, check out Hitting the Books too on YouTube. Make sure you like and subscribe to that with Bobano and Connor Mack picks. The electric shows, electric content, and sharp information consistently coming from both of those channels. But let's go into the last game before we close it out. And this is a rank versus rank type of situation. Game of the week, night game. And it's weird for me. I was talking about this yesterday, that we don't have a Pac-12 after dark 10 p.m. type of game on the East Coast. Everything's done by 8, so we can tuck ourselves in early and go to bed. But this is a big game here in the ACC. We have Pittsburgh going against SMU at Gerald J. Ford Stadium, Dallas, Texas. An SMU team that is back home after a long and exhausting road trip, and they're going to play a Pittsburgh team that is undefeated. And they're a 7.5 point favorite. Line telling the story, maybe. I'll pass it to you, Mike. What are your thoughts on Pittsburgh versus SMU?
My goodness, Pittsburgh absolutely knocked the cover off the ball against that Syracuse team last week. My Syracuse team, I was a little disgusted, disappointed. I don't want to say disappointed. I've fallen into that trap before. But Smoo, how about this? And this to me, first glance. So I've got 14 trends that pop off the radar, and they are fully graded A+ spots here. And this game falls under one of them. A 7-0 Pittsburgh team has this line moving against them. So it's now seeing Smoo at 7-1 move up in the right direction. Listen, college home team favorites in ranked versus unranked matchups. Take notice. They're sitting out there right now at 55-13. I don't like this thing going over the hook. You can still get some 7s. I'd get involved on Smoo at 7. General look at this thing, first glance. Yeah, there's no way that Pittsburgh doesn't come out there and cover this thing by a touchdown. Didn't you see what they just did against Syracuse? But that's a big rivalry game that probably gets underplayed or overshadowed based on other matchups across the country. And I think that did take a lot out of him. That Syracuse defense can certainly wear and tear on a team here, but I'll take Smoo. I'll lay the touchdown. I know this is a big number. I know it's scary. We got a 7-0 Pittsburgh team coming in, but Pittsburgh's on check your ass patrol here. I think Smoo at home finds a way. Big travel spot for this Pittsburgh team as well. I'll lay the touchdown with Smoo.
Yeah, C-Mac, what are your thoughts? SMU, Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I just think they've been undefeated. I think they've played nobody. The win, I guess, at Cincinnati was pretty good, and that was a late big win for Pittsburgh early in the year. And they kind of beat up a shitty North Carolina team and hang on there. This is just a bad spot for him after the huge win with all the pick sixes right away in this one. Now, I think you have the talent to hang around. I mean, you saw SMU last week to win a football game, the third straight week on the road. I think like you hit on, Guns. That's just to get out of there with, and they should have lost multiple times, in that game. But they made the plays when it had to happen. If they don't turn the ball over, I think SMU can win here. Do I really want to lay the touchdown? Not really. No. But I think they get the job done here. James, I think they have a lot better game with turnovers. Like, that's where I want Syracuse today. I want them at home after coughing up and doing all that, catching 4. So I think SMU plays better. Can Pitt hang around? They've been dealing with their own stuff. I thought the defense has been a little bit better. I mean, they had all those picks last week, but even before the last few weeks, it started to look a little bit, but I don't know if they're great or anything. So this was an excellent game that I can't wait to be watching later on tonight.
Yeah, I'm with Mike on this one. I think SMU is the spot on this one. If you can get -7s, it's perfect. I got 7.5 early, thinking I was going to be like honed in on the line, but it did move down a little bit on me. But you have to understand, like, SMU is 7-1. They're going against an undefeated team, and they're favored by over possession. So why are they favored over possession on an undefeated team? Well, look what Pittsburgh has done in their last 2 games. They've regressed offensively. 277 yards of total offense versus Cal at home, -58 net yard average. They figured out a way to win that game. And you alluded to the Syracuse loss, 217 yards of total offense, and they still won the game. They were -110 net yards in that game. So they lost egregiously in the yardage, and they still figured out a way to win in this game. And then Pittsburgh is a pass-oriented offense. They're 23rd in pass play percentage. They're going against an SMU defense that is just great at home, holding opponents to 315 yards of total offense. They're top 10 in rush defense, and they're top 50 in pass defense. They're also top 10 in opponent pass completion rate. So Pittsburgh just kind of underperformed as a road dog. It's unfamiliar territory for them. They're 1-5 ATS since 2022. Losing by an average of 17.3 points per game and not covering spreads by 11.8 points per game. SMU is 8-2 ATS at home in the last 10 home games. 7-2 ATS is a home favorite. This is an SMU Mustang spot altogether. There's a reason why an undefeated team is this big of a dog. SMU is going to dominate them. I love Jennings. Jennings is going to play in this game. I know there was questions if he was going to be in there. That is huge for them because that offense is humming when he is the quarterback for this team. It is going to be SMU. Give me the Stangs all day long, and we get into the chat. Of course, we're going to talk about a game here. I don't know if you guys have thoughts on this one. Do you guys have any thoughts on USC versus Washington? Connor, you seem a little bit on this one. What do you think?
Yeah, well, I couldn't get here in the end of this game. If you want to back SC, I'd back them early. I've seen them look consistently good, like even in a few of these road games, but I haven't been able to trust them on the road. Now, the flip side, I've been impressed with Washington really all year. Are they a pretty good football team? Yeah. Rodgers is a decent quarterback. He's a stiff back there. To me, he throws too many interceptions in the end, but UCSC just can't pull away. I couldn't get there. Like, initially, this was close for me, with the 3 with Washington. I just looked into it, all week, and in the end, I couldn't get there. It was a pass.
Yeah. Your thoughts, Mike? Any thoughts on this one?
I'm with Connor. I'm with CMAC on this one. I don't have any kind of decided information one side or the other. I see conflicting trends on both sides of the equation with this one. Geez, I feel like I'm an under better. But if I had to go, free bet with this one, I would look to points. Obviously we've seen USC last year. They were on like an 18-2 overrun. Do they continue that here against a Washington team? I'm not entirely sold on that. I mean, we're seeing cash coming in on the over. The line's not moving. 71% of the bets and 84% of the cash on the over, but no movement. I just don't have a play. If I wouldn't want to give anything out that I just don't have confidence in.
I'm Washington an under team real quick, and Washington's beat up on SC in the past. It's not like they've gotten ran over, especially at home. And this hasn't been like SC just kicks their ass. So if you're just running to the Trojans, who what they are, exactly what Washington is. They're a 500 football team. So
exactly.
That's what you're going with.
Yeah, and I don't think they played each other last year, so there's no like history of this one. I think they played last time was like 2022. I kind of took a peek at this game and I passed like immediately because I didn't have anything to go off of from both of these teams. Granted, these guys come from the Pac-12, they're in the Big Ten now, so this is a complete pass. I know that there might be sharp angles taking Washington. I'm not sold on Washington statistically if they can do anything, but I pass on that game completely. Of course, Danny Delp in the building says I'm on the Hoosiers alt line -6.5. You don't fade Kurt Signetti. It's like you either take Indiana or you pass. And today I'm going to pass on Indiana completely, knowing that there are bigger games on the board, including against Michigan, which I can't wait to see what the line is on that game. And of course, Michael coming into the building is like, if anyone in the chat likes UFC, come hang out with Sports Money live stream. We got a little selfless plug there from Mike. I got to do it for the boy that he's joining us here. He's been a minute, but we got to close us out. But I want to make sure I give the proper platform for these guys to promote themselves. Mike, I'm going to start with you. Tell them where they can find you on all social media platforms.
Oh man, we got a big day ahead here with Sports Money. So you guys know the deal over there at YouTube. We got Breeders' Cup. How about that? We had Breeders' Cup show last night. Almost 800 views, over 800 views. Check this out there. It was awesome. Fun times. We've got Ramon Scott and Keith from Each Every Stride hanging out doing it again today. We start at 2:45. We'll pop off with that UFC stream as well. About 4:40, the fellows will get this thing rolling. I told you guys I got a bunch of these trends here. I'll just rapid fire them real quick for you guys. Road Dog didn't cover coming off a bye week is Middle Tennessee. They're in a 171-80 position. Take the points with Middle Tennessee. Coastal Carolina lay the points. Rested road conference matchup. Road team no covered as a dog that last spot out there. We talked about Smoo. This game's popping off right now. How about Hawaii? Rest advantage on the road. Didn't cover versus a conference opponent the last time out, 192-86. So there's a couple rapid fire spots for you guys to take some points on there. And we'll see you guys later on today. 2:45, we pop off with the Breeders' Cup stream. Hopefully you guys make it on over. We're having some fun. We're betting some horses. We'll talk sports. We'll talk all kinds of things that are going on in the card today. And appreciate you guys, man. I got to see all the boys today. I got Mick and Matt. I got Babano. I got Guns. I'm happy to be back in the saddle with you guys. Thank you, man.
Yeah, I love having the boys back. This is the regs. This is what I envisioned the Saturday mornings with GunzPicks crew to be. And it's good to be back with everybody, but I'll pass it to Connor Mack. Give him some plays and tell them where they can find you on all social media platforms.
Yeah, just Connor Mack picks. Go to Hitting the Books. That's it. Dana Delp in the chat. Yeah, I'm on it. I got 3.5 a little earlier with Tulsa, and I took a money line as well. There plus 130. Let's get the game right now. It's about to kick off. I already gave it to you earlier. Syracuse plus 4. All the love of Virginia Tech. Winning. Go to Stanford and win. They go to Syracuse, and this game is tight. It's a field goal game. Syracuse get in plus 4. That's it.
Love it. And actually, I'll give a few more plays that I'm eyeing in on, and there's some later plays on this one. I like ODU today versus App State at -3. This ODU team is just humming along in the Sun Belt, and they are probably on a trajectory of being in that championship game. And also, I gave it out on Pub Sports today with Dabby Cab. New Mexico today. Let's go into the dirtiest of the dirty. The line functionality, they were 14.5-point dogs last year. Now they're 7.5-point favorites this year. It is a telling story of what is going to happen in that game. New Mexico is the spot. I also like the over in that game too. I think there's going to be a lot of points scored in there. But that's going to do it here for Saturday mornings with GunzPicks. Mikey M, Pimp Slap Pod himself, and of course Connor Mack. Thank you for joining. And of course, Ian at Bobano Bets. You can go check him out on X and check out Hitting the Books and check out Sports Money. These guys just do their own channels, do their own thing, and they just absolutely grind just like we do here on the GunzPicks channel. But to close us out, let's cash some tickets. Let's dominate the board. And as always, let's keep dancing. Kick, bang!